Hello, how's everybody doing? Heather is not with us today because she's out ill. So best wishes to you, Heather. Hope you get better. This is a cool one. This is a fun one. This is one you might want to pay attention to and come back and rewatch it, because I know I have trouble all the time, but I have to bring on my buddy who helped me with this, Mr. Terry Leigh Britton. So there he is. Hey, Terry, say hey to everyone.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. Hey guys, as always, feel free, please put comments up anytime you want. Give us a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. You can ask away. You can do it on chat. I think I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, so you can put your comments out there. Be sure to do that. As we go, I'm sure you'll have some questions. First of all, let's get right to this, Terry. And thanks. Appreciate you coming on. Give us a reason why you would use Voicemeeter in the first place.
Okay, well, Voicemeeter is a software mixer, so it's like having a mixing board, but in your computer. Mm-hmm. So it's always available. You don't have to hook up any hardware and deal with special drivers or anything. There's a Voicemeeter driver, but nonetheless, once it's in your computer, you always just call up this mixer, and then bingo, you've got this mixer available to you.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's basically like having one of those big fancy boards that all those guys like musicians have and everything, that they're sitting there doing all that stuff and doing all the, yeah, okay. So that's, except they're not doing any of that. It's nothing. It's all virtual, so to speak. We have Miss Sheila out there. She wanted to say, hey, hello, Sheila. And then we see Phil Boyer. He's out there. Hello, Phil. And then Mike, who came in, I think, Saturday when we were doing our thing too. So that's kind of cool. And there's Richard. Richard's over there on Twitch. So there you go. So it's basically a mixing board that's virtual, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And we're going to be discussing the banana version. There's 3 versions of Voicemeeter. There's the basic version that only has 2 input strips, one for a mic and one for some other piece of hardware. These are hardware input strips. And it has one auxiliary input strip for Windows audio and stuff like that. But we'll be talking about the larger brother of that, the banana version. There's also a potato version that's massive, and it's got 5 input strips and 3 virtual input strips. So most people won't have a need for that.
Right. But so that would be something, I mean, and I'm just speaking, just kind of thinking through my head. That's somebody that might have like 5 different microphones, like at a church or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where they have, where they have all these. Okay. So they have a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a calmer Terry than we are used to. I love it. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. And I'm watching the chats as they're coming in. So if you got a question, just fire away.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the reason for the input side of it. Or if maybe you had a guest on that was sitting beside you, you needed that other mic or maybe a lavalier mic or something like that, you could have that set up on that other input, something like that.
Exactly. Banana's also got 3 outputs for monitoring and 2 outputs for going to other software. Like Skype would be another software that might want to receive that, or StreamYard, or OBS,
okay,
or Zoom. Those are softwares that receive the audio, that need to get audio from somewhere. And like instead of having...
Right, yeah.
Well, the monitoring is your headphones, your speakers.
Okay.
And so you can have 3 people with their own monitor mix, basically, their own headphones. And 2 pieces of software that can be receiving separate mixes with certain things included now and not included. We'll be showing the difference between input strips and output buttons in a few minutes.
Yes, and this is probably, and I'm going to emphasize with this, warning, danger, Will Robinson. This is the part that gets confusing because of you have to think about the input strips, the output, sending out, not necessarily, I mean, and they use the same B1s and A1s, and this is where it can get really, really confusing.
Well, they don't use the same B1 and that kind of thing, but they use the same term they use the term aux in both.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
It just
Okay.
means the other one.
Auxiliary.
Yeah. And that gets confusing because you see
Right.
aux both for an input and for an output. The aux is the other input, not this input, the other. So that's what aux is used for. But because you see it twice, you go, well, I thought I just said the aux.
Yeah. So you obviously, I've heard you. You've done plenty of music. Did you use Voicemeeter when you did I know you probably had a regular mixing board, but you also probably had a Voicemeeter mixing board too, or no? Yes or no?
Correct.
Okay.
One great thing about for professional users, well, not professional, for people who have some professional equipment, a professional audio interface, like a Focusrite 2i2 is be the lowest for the Focusrite, or one of the ones from Steinberg, or all those different brands where you plug a USB cable into your computer and have some microphone inputs in the front and some line inputs. For people to use that, it uses a kind of interface language, sound interface language or driver called ASIO or ASIO. I call it ASIO. Some people say ASIO. Some people say just spell it out, ASIO. But that is something that Voicemeeter can utilize, and when you select the ASIO device, everything in Voicemeeter is then driven by that device's settings. So it's super convenient because I have professional gear, and when I output my shows to the internet, OBS doesn't use, it can't see ASIO devices, can't use the ASIO. And so it needs a translator, and Voicemeeter is a fantastic translator because it'll convert the ASIO signal into the Windows audio type of signal that OBS needs. And similar with Skype, similar with Zoom, those don't see ASIO because that's a professional protocol that's written with special drivers. But the Voicemeter is written so it can use that professional equipment and convert the audio over to Windows audio so that all those softwares can see it.
So it's basically a translator of that particular thing.
Like a translator, it converts from that pro format to the Windows audio formats.
So really and you really want that for the music end of it, right?
Huh?
I mean, the music end of it, because especially if you're doing music or something like that, it makes it that much better as opposed to playing through Windows or whatever, or however you're, like you said, OBS doesn't accept it, right?
The biggest reason is that the professional interfaces have much less of a delay between when I hit the note and hear the note. It's called latency. And Windows audio all has pretty long delays. And bet I'll get wound up. So all Windows audio formats have pretty long delays compared to the ASIO special format, special drivers, which are optimized to the hilt. And so when I want to hit a note and hear it in my headphones without very much delay, or especially for video, I want my finger movements to sync perfectly with the sound people are hearing. And so if people are seeing my keyboarding, and also for lip sync to a degree. Now, people aren't really that sensitive about lip sync, and so most people just kind of glide over it. But when they see my fingers just went 2 notes past what the video showed, or we're actually lagging behind.
Yeah, if they even know what that is.
Ahead of the audio in that case. So this makes it so you get this really good monitoring capability. And
what about sound quality? Does it help with the sound quality as well, or
no? Windows audio is still all digital. It's still digital audio quality, and we'll be showing the quality settings just very briefly, recommending that people go with that 48 versus 48K.
Or even if it's not synced when you're doing that or whatever, the quality doesn't change. It's just a matter of that syncing being closer together, correct?
Yeah. Quality at 48 versus 44 is marginally better. The big deal with doing audio work is to, instead of using the 16-bit audio, to use the 24-bit audio, because that's a much more headroom between the quietest and the loudest. And so you can record at a lower setting without worrying that you're too quiet. And by doing that, now you can really blast it and go up into the red, and it won't, well, not in the red, but very, very high. And you'll never be overloading, because 24-bit has so much more headroom. It's just insane how much more. So you could I could be doing my show and bring a jet engine into the living room. And it wouldn't care.
So basically, all of this is like, I'm sure some of you out there going, this is crazy, but it is a learned thing, and I've learned it over time and still haven't really mastered it. But I was talking to Heather after we had done our workshop in our community. I said to her, I said, I think I've learned some more stuff about this stuff. So
already,
I know. So I'm actually starting to learn, and I got that scrolling down there. You guys can join our community. I'd love to have people join our community. We'll have community members in to talk to our guests afterward for about 15 minutes or so. So, 15 minutes to talk or whatever, or longer, depending on how long. Terry gets pretty winded sometimes. So,
yes. But I have to keep it sane, because it's early morning for Ross in Australia right now. I think.
That's right. There you go.
Okay. Well, so we have the idea that it's a mixing board. You haven't seen it yet, so why don't you show my my save screen and see what it looks like? So the key elements to be knowledgeable about are this one. These first three are hardware input strips. Although that's not technically true if you're using an ASIO device. Well, no, they're always true. It's always a hardware thing. But it can be hardware from the back of your computer, or it can be the inputs on your ASIO device, that type of thing.
Yeah. Just want to make sure everyone can see that. So it's over on the left-hand column. The whole left-hand side is like input 1. And then there's 2 and then 3. That's those first 3 green lines that you see.
Yes, first 3 green lines. Those are called input strips. Because it's a strip, because from the top to the bottom is a strip. And there's different settings that are duplicated on each one. So it's really 3 of the same thing, just duplicates. Okay? So you can have 3 different inputs. But they all have the same settings. And this little square up here allows you to adjust the audio, and I'll go ahead and do that so you hear it. You hear I got to get 10E now, and then go back to base.
Whole radio, then back.
And right, and you can right click on it and bring up other things like settings that you can
distortion and stuff like that,
and a position thing that's a virtual positioning slider. It creates a psychoacoustic effect that makes it sound like you've moved things, and the audio. And so these 3 are the hardware inputs, and then these 2 in the middle are the virtual inputs, which simply means your computer's audio in some way. It means it's the pure digital audio that's coming through your computer through some means, through some routing that you set up. And you usually set that up over here in the, someone's knocking at my door. My gosh.
Go ahead. If you need to get it, go ahead. I will mute you for a second. So basically, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen. So what he was talking about, I'm going to go over to those channels. Let me go to my screen here, and I'm going to show you. This was input 1 right here in this column, which I don't have a mic set up. This is my old Samson mic, so I don't have that set up right now. And then the other thing, this one is the one that I actually do have, and you can kind of see that bouncing around. That's the second input. And then if you look here, this is a third input. This one is for my lavalier mics. I don't have it hooked up, but this would be the lavalier mic. So those are the 3 input devices that I have set up there. Now he's in the section right here talking about, and you can see, I don't know, hopefully you can see it, but I've named mine Windows and then Zoom. So I have those isolated there. Now he's back, so I will put him back on. Give me a second. And I'll unmute you. Terry, you are back, and I'll put your screen back on. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, he was talking about how he named some of his strips. When you're up at the top where mine says microphone right now, you can right click on it and it turns into a text box that you can enter a name for, and it'll remember
you could type in like your Shure microphone or whatever microphone
exactly
you have.
which microphone it is, the name of the mic. Since I'm only using one mic in here now, but I do have 3 mics, and so I could give each one a different name.
Gotcha.
You can see my hardware input 2 and hardware input 3. I'm not even using. They're not assigned to anything. So they say select input device, but I would click where it says select, and a big list of all the different input devices on my computer shows up.
That's
and
great.
I can select one of those. Okay. Now that's the only way to get it. Later, if there's people that have professional interfaces, we can answer some questions about how to assign those professional interfaces to these input strips later on. But that's a mildly advanced subject, not very advanced, but it's, if nobody here needs it, then why go into it?
Yeah, we don't need to go into all. I mean, we could sit here and do a whole webinar on that.
But if you have a pro interface, you definitely want to know. So.
Yes, yeah. We'll have them reach out to you. All Terry's information is in the description of this event as well.
But as you see, mine says A1 ASIO input 1 and 1, meaning I'm using channel 1, my one microphone input into channel 1, but for both the left and right channels. And so I'm doing that because I'm on a pro thing. All right, now let's go back from the hardware. The hardware things, usually people only need the one because all they have in hardware is their microphone.
Yeah, the only microphone, got it.
Yeah. However, the reason we use Banana, a big reason, is that it's got this second auxiliary, what they call the auxiliary virtual input strip, or VAIO, okay? And rather than just the one, which is what normal Voicemeeter just has, the one input for Windows type audio. And so this makes it so that you can route different things different ways. You can have the audio from Windows audio coming into this first one for playback from your music player, for instance, to play background sounds, or to play something coming in that's maybe you're doing a YouTube video, but you're using Skype or Zoom to talk to somebody, and you want to bring their audio in and be able to send it back out to Zoom, for instance. But you don't want to send the Zoom audio back out to itself, but you need to monitor the Zoom audio. So you would bring that into the second one to monitor. And as you see, I have an A1 lit up, but none of the others are lit. Especially none of these Bs are lit up, because that would send, the Bs are for broadcast and they send the audio back out. So let's get in, now that we've discussed input strips, and remember, strips are always input. These strips are input to control your inputs and control the levels, the volume levels, and control where they're going to send them. Each strip has this A1, A2, A3, which are for monitoring. Think of A as for audition, and then a B1 and a B2, which are output also, but they're outputs to the software, outputs to other software. And think of that as broadcast. So those are your broadcast controls. So if you want to broadcast out to, you have 2 softwares, imagine. You have Zoom and OBS, just as an example. So you would set up, so Zoom is getting its info from the B1, because this is an output that it can use. And OBS is getting it from B2. That way they're getting them from separate things. So sometimes you might want to send both to one of those things. Like probably you want to send both to OBS to go out to YouTube. But you wouldn't want to send them both to Zoom necessarily, because Zoom might be, coming in, and you don't want to send it back out to itself. So if it's coming into a strip, you certainly don't want to be sending it out to itself on that same strip.
I'm not sure what Kentucky Fried's asking. Says turn the audio on. Yeah, that's to turn it on and off, basically. Yes. You can lower and raise it as well.
Right. Now, so now that you get strips, have all these controls, buttons control where it goes to the output. That's the output buttons. So if you're making notes, write down input strips, output buttons. Okay. And the buttons control where the audio is sent to, which, and then of course in your software, you're saying, okay, I want button 2 for my input, or I want button 1 for my input, because you're getting 2. Now in that potato version, you get even more outputs. I think 5 monitors and 3 or 4 broadcast outputs. So, but most people, like I say, that's going to be way overkill. The biggest deal here is that most people want to use it to be able to do something like a YouTube stream or a StreamYard stream or a Twitch stream, and bring in something like Zoom or Skype, and not have an echo set up, but you still need to hear the people and still need to send it out to Twitch, for instance. So that's why you would need the 2, so that you could have one having both and one having only one. Okay, so you're not sending back out to itself.
Let me ask you this. Is it possible to send to more than just 2, like have one other thing set up?
Yeah, you can tap anything you want off of the outputs. It's just that you have 2. This is giving the options for sending, but you can tap as many softwares as you want off of the B1 or off B2.
There's only two that
digital. It's just digital going out into the stream, and the software is simply tapping off of that stream.
Got you. So there's only 2 choices. You couldn't you couldn't have Skype, Zoom, and
Well, not with independent control.
Right.
No, wait a minute. Forget. You could have Skype, Zoom, and
StreamYard or whatever.
All tapping off of just the B1.
Right.
But when you turned off B1, it would turn off to everybody.
Everybody. Yeah. You couldn't just control one. You'd have to control all of them.
Yeah. So the reason to have potato would be if you had more software that you needed individual control over, in terms of being able to mute it for certain strips.
Gotcha.
Okay. There's certain strips you just don't want that software to be getting the stream. And so just think of these as they're all digital audio output streams, and you can tap into those streams. With the A's for Audition, you're usually tapping into them with headphones or speakers.
Right.
All right. There are
like mix minus on a regular mixer, Tom asked. He says what would be like mix minus on a regular mixer?
I guess, yeah. Where certain things are eliminated. Well,
Gotcha.
But this is, to me, it's a lot more versatile than a regular mixer. On a regular mixer, you usually have 2 outs, though you have buses and things. But you still got to get into the computer, and that might be through your audio interface.
Yeah. So do Voicemeeter control the sound quality of the Zoom recording? Do I need to do something to make that happen?
Yes. When you get to the sound quality, I assume you are meaning the
sound of the audio I'm bringing in, the other person.
Yeah, but you said the word quality. Now I got you.
Exactly. There's a difference.
And quality is determined by 2 things: the sample rate, which is how many times per second a digital sample is made of the sound. A snippet is made of the sound going on. Normal CD audio is 44.1 thousand times a second. Okay, that it samples what's coming into the microphone and digitizes it, turns it into ones and zeros. A slightly higher fidelity that goes into the realm where only birds and bats can hear is 48. And there's even higher ones at 88.2 and 96, and now even higher that audiophiles tend to like. But the CD standard was the 44.1 because it covered the range of human hearing without any kind of issues. And but video standardized to 48. So when you're making video, it's a good idea to use the video standard, especially if you're not just streaming, but also recording locally, because when you bring that audio, the video with its audio into your video mixing software to edit, then it's going to be expecting 48K audio.
Yeah. Ross,
Okay.
just to answer your question, Voicemeeter is PC only.
The only.
I think it's
Matt, get out of here.
That's right. I think it's mostly because there's so many gamers that are PC and they have the
still PC, but I understand he's working on a Mac version.
There you go. And he says, what I mean is audio level and adding bass and making it sound better. Yes, you can absolutely do
tone control and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I can add bass or bring stuff in. That's kind of doing this.
The hardware inputs over here, you get for the mic, you can change the timbre of the microphone and even add some effects up here. So you should have heard that when I was moving that around.
Yeah, we did.
And for the virtual inputs, there are tone controls, treble, bass, mid-range. But even more than that, on these output strips, there is an EQ button. And just clicking it simply turns it on and off, which is something most people go, oh, well, it turns it on and off. So what? The secret with this is that you right click on it and it brings up this full range professional mixer, professional equalizer that can equalize like crazy. It's a very, very high end. So you can see I can raise just this section and double click and it goes back and this is for each one of the outputs. So right now I'm outputting through this strip to you through the B1, my microphone. So I can right click on this and turn it on. And now I'll go ahead and I'll make my voice sound strange. There you go.
You turned the wrong one on, I think.
Oh, did I? Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, so now it sounds pretty strange. I'm dipping it quite a bit and sweeping it.
Yeah.
And I can change the EQ. Are you hearing this?
Yeah, I see a little bit of a change. Yes.
Okay. And so you change the frequency up here. You change how much of a difference you're making here, and you change what they call the Q or how steep that is there. And so it's called a parametric equalizer. That's nice about it is that if you just want to emphasize the bass, for instance, you could just bring this one down here and just emphasize the bass and lower the Q so that you're not emphasizing the stuff around it. Okay. So, but that's something to play with. I think you heard it, what I was doing.
Yeah.
Go.
Yep. So is that? Let me ask you this: since you did that, I noticed that you hit number 2. Can I do that for my guest sounds that I'm bringing in as well? Let's say that they sound very hollow. I can change that to a more bassy sound.
Yeah, you can. You could always EQ them. Now it's easier to EQ it through just the 3 EQs up here. If you're not used to parametric, that can be a little daunting because you don't understand frequencies and all that stuff. Then you don't know. Oh, this is the range for bass that I'd want to be doing this to. Gotcha. So you can just mess with this treble, mid-range, and bass control instead. Gotcha. Like now, the hardware input strips don't have that, so you have to to affect that using
Right.
the
Yeah.
using these. And so the first three are your monitors that you'd be affecting. These three, okay.
A1,
And
A2, A3.
that's just changing the EQ of your monitoring system to your headphones and to your
Yeah.
speakers. Nice thing
Gotcha.
about that is that you can have a different EQ mix for
Mhm.
each person wearing headphones.
Mhm.
And then the last two are for the outputs to the broadcast software.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
Which gives
Terry,
you,
don't be like that. I love my Mac. I know you love your Mac.
I know.
But
Macs are-
Voicemeter, I'm telling you, I think Voicemeter originally probably was geared toward the gamer, and most gamers have PCs. They do not have a Mac usually. It's a very powerful PC. Usually, I'm just saying in general.
Interestingly, the first people that made videos about it weren't gamers at all. They were ham radio operators.
Oh, really?
Yep. Because they always had issues of having to bring in audio from the outside world from Skype. And
Oh,
so,
I see.
and then the next wave which I helped because I made some of the first videos on Voicemeeter when it first came out, was the Skype folks that wanted to be able to include Skype in a stream, or
I
even
see.
just mix it at all, get a mix where they
Yeah.
could be using Skype and have some control over it. But especially to be able to bring in music and things like that. And then I extended that to Hangouts and showed how to use it in Hangouts. You're basically just setting up Voicemeter's B1 or B2 as your microphone in that software.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty simple when it goes to select microphone. Instead of selecting your actual hardware mic, you select Voicemeter and go through the Voicemeter mixer in
Gotcha.
order to send it out to the software. So even though this is a software mixer to your other software that's getting sound from it, it's seeing it as a microphone in most cases. And it's listed in the list of microphone inputs, microphone sources, I should say.
That helps.
Now, I showed you this over here, this how it has the different names. And this is your playback side. And see how it says Voicemeter aux input.
Right.
And where the aux confuses people. Then in my recording tab, I have aux output. Because it says aux, it gets a little, confusing. And so the thing to realize is that aux means the other one. And so the Voicemeter output, for instance, would be the B1. Okay, so anything that's sending to B1, as you can see, it's floating around because I've got my microphone going to B1. Now I could change the name of this to be a reminder by double clicking on it and adding the word B1 so that I've now shows up here. And now in any software I use, when you're looking for the microphone to use and you're setting it to Voicemeter as the mic, it'll show up as Voicemeter output B1. Likewise, let's do that over here. Voicemeter aux output, which means B2. Okay. Now, sometimes when you reinstall the driver, we just found this out the other day, it can confuse these and suddenly assign your names, your custom names to wayward, oddball devices that you didn't even realize you had and stuff like that. So so you have to just come back in here and rename things sometimes, but that's how you rename them. But this is also how you, under the advanced tab, how you set that studio quality setting. So that's basically what you're looking for is the studio quality. Studio quality means that 24-bit, which means that you've got that much extended dynamic range so you can bring the jet engine into your room and not overload the recording. And because it's a 24-bit. And the 48 makes it so your video audio is compatible with any video editor and is at the video standard. And so you can send that out to YouTube, and YouTube's very happy with it. If you're just doing live streams, it converts it to 44, I believe, but it doesn't matter. It's just lopping off some zeros, and because it's not using them.
You're
But
probably blowing people away right now. It's just like,
this is where you want to set that. Okay, 48, and then hit apply. And if you're using the device at the time, it's going to complain. So I'll do this way before you're doing any kind of shows. Similarly, in your playback, the same idea, that you go to advanced and you set it to studio 24-bit, 48 studio quality, and it'll be happy, happy, happy. Set all 4 of them to the same setting, so they're always at the same. When you're really serious, you usually want to go in and make sure every single device, playback and recording, every single thing on your computer is set to the same settings. Because otherwise you can get some sample rate conversion issues where these devices are trying to convert on the fly to talk to each other, and it takes up CPU energy. And if you're like Michael, you're running 18 different programs at the same time for a show, then your CPU starts running out of room.
That's it.
So anything you can do to optimize is good. Now, let me show you how to get to those settings. The way you do it is at the very bottom. Let's see if you see my arrow. Oh, I better do it on the screen. There we go. At the very bottom, there's a speaker icon, and it doesn't show on the screen because it's my shared screen. Little speaker icon, you right-click on it and say Open Sound Settings, and this comes up. And over at the far right is a sound control panel button. So you click that, and that's what brings up that sound control panel. Now, on most computers nowadays, it takes a while for that to come up because it pulls all of the different drivers first, and then collects all the information about them so that it can display them in that little box for you. So it can take a while to pop up, like mine always does. And so there you go. Mine just popped up. Now, for just choosing the device, of course, you can use this dialog for just selecting what your output and input devices are. And you see how it changed, because I changed the name to have the B2. See how it now is listed in here as B2? And it'll be listed in any software, so however I named it. I could have named it Poindexter. It would show up as Poindexter. So
that's very helpful.
In fact, I think I will name Poindexter. I like that. Okay, so okay, now I've covered most of the basic important things.
You did.
Input scripts and the output buttons, and that you can rename them. You can also rename these, like I have this named Cantabile, because this is where I was bringing in my music software to send it to the video for the concerts. And this one doesn't have a name, but again, you just right click and a thing shows up that lets you I can just change it to monitor only or something. And but so you just right click and change the name, and it remembers. Now, but speaking of remembering, you may have a few different setups of different buttons selected. Like this is a very basic setup I just used for the game show. All I really need is my microphone and to be able to hear the audio, so that when everybody's talking, because I've only got Zoom running, and that's all I need is to hear Zoom and hear the and have my microphone going out.
You can save it.
So you go up here to Menu, Save Settings, and it brings up a simple dialog that lets you save it with a name. Okay, it's an XML. You might make a Voicemeeter folder and save them, start saving them in there. And now, I don't know if does anybody here have a professional audio interface that wants to see how I assigned my microphone? It's very simple. Just go to Menu, System Settings, and right here is a special thing, Patch ASIO Inputs to Strips. And here's the 3 strips, and these are the channels on my ASIO hardware device. And I'm sending one to the left, and I'm sending one to the right. Okay? And every time you click, it advances by 1. You're going to hear my left disappear. There you go. So now you should just hear me on the left. And you right click to decrement to bring the numbers down. Okay. And that assigns your hardware input, your ASIO hardware input, to the convenient strip here. So instead of dropping down this thing and having this huge list, instead of selecting from that list, which doesn't show any ASIO devices,
True.
you get the ASIO devices in by going to System Settings Options and selecting it from here. And you can send, if you have a larger, fancier one like I do, you can send the second input to strip 2. And here, like say I had a second microphone and I wanted just the mono. So instead of having to hit the mono button, basically, I'm sending it left and the same channel to the left and right. Okay. Or you can have a stereo device and have 3 and 4. So you have the separate, your left going to the left and the right going to the right of the strip. Okay, so this is for people that have those pro audio devices, to be able to still use the strips for your controlling your volume and your routing from your nice professional audio device, USB audio device.
There you go. Now no one needs to go to a tutorial now anymore. You just got one. That is crazy. All the stuff you just went over. That is a lot of stuff, folks, and this is probably blowing a lot of people's minds out. But one thing that's one thing that's nice about this, though, that I really enjoy is the fact that it really does allow you, like, for example, when I do my game show, I want to keep separate the sound of the people, which I have coming out of Zoom. I'm broadcasting out to StreamYard. So, and I also have sounds from my desktop. So I want sounds from the people in Zoom separate from the sounds from the desktop, but they're all going into StreamYard, and I have control over that. So if you want control of the sound, that's a way to grasp and get that sound so you can isolate it to those specific channels to be output, how they're output to that, how you're broadcasting that. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I use it, why I started using it, and I love it. I mean, because if Terry's sitting here talking, I can, as far as my monitoring, I can turn that down so I don't have to listen to him, and I can be playing a YouTube video and just keep nodding my head, and he'll never know what's going on because I can separate those sounds.
Happens all the time.
No, but it is. It's kind of cool to be able to set that where, if you're in a conversation or you're in a group meeting or whatever, I can isolate those sounds of either one, whichever one I want to hear more. I can do that.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been about 40
Okay, now we can field some questions then, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody wants to throw some questions out there, or if you're totally confused, what's that?
Oh, if you don't have any questions by now, shame on you.
No, they all got it. Now the B1, A1.
He took notes too. That's good.
There you go. There you go.
They always figure I'll go back and watch this video later.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is that's what I do.
Yeah.
Okay. What did he say?
Me too. Actually, in the past, when I got started making videos, a lot of the reason why I did it was to remind myself how I did stuff.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely.
I knew a year later, I might forget.
I would like to emphasize too the importance of saving your settings. What was nice is I came in after Windows did an update and all the things were all askew. They were all kind of screwed up, and I was like, daggum. Well, I had saved my Voicemeeter settings for when I do the game, so I was able to go back to that, and it fixed everything that I was working in.
Like that.
Yes, and then also the StreamYard, though, I couldn't fix because there's no way to save that setting. So I had to go in and reset that. But it's really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Says, I'm sure once I spend some time with it, I'll have questions. There you go.
Okay, we have time. Go ahead and spend some time with it.
There you go. A squared plus B squared equals increased volume. There you go.
Well, that's sort of true. It's actually the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the opposite two sides.
There you go. I've got the basic one. Got to get the banana. Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, get banana. Much more useful.
Yeah.
In the original one, we used to, in order to get that, what's the equivalent of the aux strip, the aux
Mm-hmm.
input strip. To get the equivalent of the aux input strip, we had to use a Voicemeeter makes a virtual cable, they call it.
Audio B.
Lets you to bring in something and route it to another thing and use that as an input. So we would select the input strip from, well, you're not showing my screen. Yeah, there we go. We would select the input strip from this list. Okay. And I don't have it installed on this version of Windows that I'm using here, but it would show up as cable. You can get back. It would show up as the cable A or cable B, and that way I could assign it to one of the hardware input strips and get double duty out of a hardware input strip that I wasn't using in the original version by routing some audio, and that virtual cable would look like hardware. Yeah, you got it. So it looks like, so it's appearing as if it was hardware, but you can send any signal you want to it, like Windows Audio stuff. You can make it your, you could make it your, what's the word? The default audio output for your playback device. And that would send it to an input strip. But now, since we have the aux, you can set that as a device. Now, I typically, and they say this right in the manual right away, that the best use of Voicemeeter is to just set it up in Windows as your default audio device anyway. And that way it'll always show up through those virtual strips. Maybe I should have shown that. In fact, that's kind of important, isn't it? So, oh, that's not the one I want. Let's bring up. So I'm right clicking on the speaker setting and going to sound settings. And so this is, you'll notice this is where I'm saying output and input. I've got both of them set to Voicemeeter. And so this is where I'm setting the default audio. You can also do that in that sound control panel by right clicking on the item, on the Voicemeeter item you want to be the default. And you notice I'm using as the defaults, I'm using the auxes, the B2 output device from Voicemeter, the button, the B2 button, and the there we go, and the aux strip. So when you are in here, you right click and well, let's say I want to make this one. You would right click on the one that is not your default. You set as default device. So right now I'm using the aux input as my playback device, meaning it's going to that strip. Remember, input refers input strips. In fact, it would be maybe a good idea to go, for those that are easily confused like I am, say, change the name to Voicemeeter aux input strip. So it'll show up in Windows as the aux input strip. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Same with this one. And that way you understand it's not a button, it's a strip. Because it's easy to keep, because of that word aux and this input output thing, it can get a little confusing. It can get a lot confusing, especially when you're setting up 35 different things, you know. So here I've set it set to a button name for my recording and it's set to strip for my playbacks. Okay. So
all righty, we're way past time.
All right, folks, good.
You guys, any of you community members can come on in and chat with us afterward. We're going to take about 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long Terry's willing to stick around. Anybody that is interested, please join our community. We'd love to have you in the community. It's a good thing. We do daily tips. We also do workshops, and we do like this where we have guests on. You can come in and chat with the guest afterward. We'd love to have you. Terry, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. And Terry, I got a link to Terry's Twitter, also his YouTube channel, where you can probably get a hold of him there, I would imagine.
Twitter's not the best way.
Twitter's not?
I'm not a bunch of a Twitter.
Okay. All right. Well,
you can send them to my email. I don't mind people.
Okay. All right. Well, I can do that too. And folks, thank you so much for showing up today. We really do appreciate everyone. Community members, I will put it in the Hangout message box. That link will be in there for you guys to join us. Also on the website, you can click on the link on our private website where you can just click the link and come on into the after party, after whatever, backstage pass, after party, whatever you want to call it. Terry, thanks again. I'm going to end the broadcast. Anybody that rewatches this and you have some questions, I'll be sure and push those questions along to Terry so maybe he can help you out and answer. I know. And Miss Sheila says, "Yep, mind blown." There you go. Absolutely.
Excellent. My work is done then.
Terry, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
coming on and chatting with us. I appreciate it. All righty, folks.